Hello and welcome. This professional development video session from MEI is exclusive to Let's Count. My name is Alison Hopper and I'm looking forward to going with you on this journey through statistics. This session looks at the progression in statistics across the primary years. It shows how connections can be made to other areas of the maths and numeracy curriculum from number in year 1 through to fractions, decimals, percentages and geometry by the end of year 6. The activities highlight how important it is to be able to interpret the census data to design a better future for our own localities and the people who live there. There are lots of things for you to discuss and do during the session. If you have a small handful of cubes, counters or something similar to hand, that will help. And later in the session, some circles, a ruler and perhaps a protractor might be useful. Let's start with an overview of the features of progression through the curriculum from the early years foundation stage and through the primary years. The focus for our youngest children is on skills required to interpret data and statistics. Counting is key, first in ones, then in line with other aspects of the maths and numeracy curriculum in steps of 2, 5 and 10. We're not expecting pupils to interpret scales at this stage. This paves the way for more sophisticated representations in the future. Scale is introduced as representations become more sophisticated with bar charts, and we begin to explore the difference between continuous and discrete data. More sophisticated counting is required, and growing familiarity with number lines developed in years 1 and 2 is now transferred into working with scales not marked in ones. It is important to be able to work out the values of the unmarked division and the gaps between divisions. In years 5 and 6, the complexity of the presentation of data moves on again. Pupils are expected to draw on their understanding of fractions, percentages and angles to interpret pie charts. They're also asked to apply their fluency with calculation strategies when interpreting statistics and data, for example, when calculating mean averages. Making use of statistical skills in other areas of the curriculum provides a context and a reason for the collection and representation of data. It also highlights the data handling cycle of identifying a problem or question, designing the collection of information which can be represented in order to find the answer to a question or to provide a solution to a problem. Planning and knowing what data is important in a particular situation is key, and cross-curricular links can provide meaningful contexts to develop this understanding. So let's really get into this progression and explore what it looks like in the classroom. If you have some cubes, counters or something similar, now is the time to get them. Make a stick or a line with 5 of your cubes or counters and have a think about what they could represent. You might want to pause the recording here, and if you're working with others, talk to them and share your ideas. I'm sure you've come up with lots of examples. I tried to think about what we might be doing in a classroom that would have led to the pupils having 5 cubes or counters in front of them and what they might be representing. It could be that each object represents a 2p coin in a purse or a bag of apples ready for snack time. It could be the number of children who've used the outdoor area so far today, or how many different football teams the children in the class support. It could be the number of days that it's rained this month, or the number of weeks we've been in school. Or it could just be the number of tables we have in the classroom. In each of those cases, each cube is representing something different, and identifying what it is key. Sometimes a cube or counter might represent one thing, like the children using the outdoor area, and at other times it's representing more than one thing, or things with a value of more than one. For example, the 2p coins, or the bags of apples, where the cube represents one bag, but that bag might contain 10 apples. Identifying and defining the unit of counting is known as unitizing, and it's a skill that will support the interpretation of data, amongst other things, in the future. Our basic counting doesn't do that in the language we use. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What we're actually counting is ones, 1 1, 2 ones, 3 ones. And securing this understanding with young children will mean that they can be flexible when they count in other units. So what could this represent? Well, it's clearly got something to do with apples, but what information could this be representing? You might want to pause and discuss this now. It might be that each apple represents one apple, but it could be that each represents 2 or more apples, or perhaps a whole bag. Pictograms are an accessible way for young children to collect and represent information, but we need to make sure that they are confidently articulating what it is that each picture represents. Here we've just got blocks, the same number of blocks as the apples, but a more abstract image, and the blocks could be representing anything. How do we move pupils on from pictures to more abstract representations? What could the context for this block graph be? You might want to pause the presentation here and discuss this image compared with the apples and think how pupils might respond to being presented with this image and asked about what it could represent. This sort of open activity gives pupils the chance to think and you the chance to assess their understanding of this representation. Do they understand that whatever the blocks represent, each block represents the same unit? Do they see 1, 3 and 2 or individual blocks? We're moving from blocks to bar charts now, and this introduction of a numbered scale signals that we're moving on into Key Stage 2. We may even be pushing into Year 4 here, and my clue for that is the scale, which is in 20s with no interim marks, and we're looking at time in minutes. In a bar chart, the vertical axis or y-axis should be the measure of frequency, how long, how many, how much. Prior to this, pupils will have been using and interpreting number lines, but not until they reach Key Stage 2 in the context of scales in representations of data. Now the expectation is raised that they will interpret the scale as part of the presentation of data. This image and a few of the others come from the NCETM's assessment materials. I've removed the questions associated with this data to see how you could use it as a starting point for a lesson. What could you ask? We often get pupils to ask questions about the data, but it can often be the case that the questions they ask are not as complex as the ones that we would like them to be able to answer. Strike a balance, give them the chance, but make sure that you steer the discussion in the way that you want it to go as well. Pause the recording now and discuss what you might want to do with this data and what you might ask. I'm going to propose a statement about this data, that Sam watches more television at the weekend than he does in the rest of the week. There's lots to talk about there. What do we mean by more than the rest of the week? Questions and statements like this to investigate also lead pupils to realise that they sometimes need to combine the values of bars in order to solve a problem. With a chart like this, there is also the need to estimate times due to the nature of the scale. A question like that brings in elements of place value, arithmetic, and possibly some written calculations to the data work. Once pupils are confident with extracting information from a variety of presentations of data, the questions asked can often incorporate understanding of number and place value, so valuable links across the curriculum can be made. Line graphs in this form are referred to as distance time graphs. Line graphs display continuous data. Every point on the line has a value, not just the ones marked by the red dots. This one shows the detail of going for a walk, with the axes showing the distance travelled away from home and how long the walk had taken. In order to check that pupils understand what this is representing, a good starting point is to ask them to tell the story of the graph. You might want to pause the presentation and think of a story yourself, or consider the parts of the graph to which you would want to draw the attention of pupils. A couple of places you might want to focus on are what happened between 20 and 30 minutes, and what is the difference between what was happening at 30 to 35 minutes and 35 to 40 minutes. How long did it take them to travel the first 800 metres and the last 800 metres? What does this tell you? This is drawing attention to gradient, which is not a part of the primary curriculum, but will be important as they move to secondary school. Where the line graph displayed continuous data, the bar chart displays discrete data. The fact that Sam watched 40 minutes of television on Monday and 60 minutes of television on Tuesday does not mean that halfway between Monday and Tuesday he'd watched 50 minutes. We couldn't display this data on a line graph, as the points on the line between the fixed measures of Monday, Tuesday, etc. have no value, so this is discrete data. This is continuous data, so we can represent it on a line graph. The points between the times when a child is measured have meaning, but it can be argued that they're estimates, as we know that children do not grow at an even pace. They are, however, growing constantly, so all points on the line have a meaning. To interpret line graphs, as with any scaled representation, we need to know what is being displayed and to understand how the scale is marked and therefore what the data is telling us. As pupils move into secondary school, line graphs have a strong link with aspects of algebra, and the points on a line can be defined by an equation. Familiarity with this presentation of data will be developed as children move on. Timetables are a form of data that some pupils find difficult to read. There is a clear link to real life skills, and timetables also give us a chance to introduce calculating with time, which can be challenging when using column methods with numbers which do not all work in base 10. Encouraging the use of number lines and more informal calculation methods can avoid answers which do not make sense in the context of time. I've presented you with a problem here. Work through it and identify the steps and the possible difficulties that pupils might encounter. You might want to pause the recording here while you discuss the activity and other questions that you might ask your pupils about the information presented. At the end of primary school, pupils move on to looking at pie charts. Here is some data about the way pupils travel to school. Around the chart there are some suggestions of language that we might encourage pupils to use to describe the information. Pie charts allow us to make lots of connections with other areas of maths. You might want to pause the recording here and consider those other areas of maths and how we can encourage pupils to make those connections. Pie charts give us a really good context for rehearsing lots of other aspects of the maths curriculum. We can use the language of fractions and percentages, and also draw on understanding of angles, including the use of protractors to increase accuracy. By introducing a value into the pie chart, let's say 15 pupils walk to school, we can ask what they think the numbers in the other parts of the pie chart might be. Here we could get into measuring angles if we want more accurate answers. When teaching statistics, pie charts can be a vehicle for revisiting many other aspects of maths. And also pie charts can be used as a different context when teaching those other aspects of maths. Number, calculation, fractions, percentages and angles. They're a very rich mathematical representation. These pie charts have been created from census data from the NOMIS website. They are real places, but we've called them A Town and C Town, and the pie charts show the ages of the population in each area. You could ask pupils to compare the two places and tell a story about what these places might be like. Two figures have been given, and the first task is to use those figures to reason about which town has the larger population. To answer the second question and estimate the population for each town, and maybe go further and estimate the numbers in each section of the pie charts, you might want pupils to make use of calculators or perhaps protractors to increase the accuracy of their calculations. Towards the end of Key Stage 2, we introduced pupils to the idea of the mean average, one way of defining the average of a set of data. Why would we want to know the average? It's important to consider this so that mean average is understood rather than it become a memory test of adding and dividing. Finding a mean average helps to answer the question, about how long does it take for a Year 6 to run 100 metres? If we're designing our sports day timetable, it's good to know roughly how long each event will take so that we allow enough time but don't waste time. In doing that, we're estimating an average time and then allowing a bit longer. What we've got here is information about some pupils running 100 metres. and we've got a range of times. What we want from those figures is one figure which represents them all, and to calculate the mean we find the total for all 10 pupils and then distribute those times equally between the 10 to come up with that representative figure. We find the total and divide by the number of values we have. Let's relate the idea of averages to the census data. We've got the pie chart for the ages of the population of A town here again, along with the average for not only A town but also for B town, C town and D town. The task here is to think about how the pie charts for the other towns might differ to the pie chart for A town. Which sections might be larger and which smaller? If you have some circles, you might want to pause here and have a go at sketching the pie charts for B, C and D town. The census data helps local areas to plan to meet the needs of their population. So what different plans might be in place for A town compared with C town? You can access census data from your own local area on the NOMIS website. Thank you for sticking with me on this journey through statistics. I hope it has helped to clarify the progression across the year groups and to highlight where new concepts are introduced. We've also explored links and connections with other aspects of maths and numeracy. I've summarised some key points here on this final slide, which should support us in ensuring that our pupils leave primary school ready to meet the challenges of maths and statistics in particular as they move on to secondary school.